Good morning, dear students. Our next part that will be dealing with the different methods of determination of the reaction mechanisms. So far we have seen so many reaction mechanisms, isn't it? We have seen this nucleophilic substitution reactions, unimolecular, then bimolecular, then elimination E1 and E2 reactions, isn't it? And also we have discussed some of the reaction mechanisms also, isn't it? So now here we will be discussing how these reactions, or how we are identifying the reaction mechanism, or what are the steps involved during a reaction. We will be writing the intermediates also, isn't it? That is, we are writing some that there will be some intermediates like carbocations or carbanions or free radicals will be there during that reaction, isn't it? How we will be coming to that conclusion, or how we will reach that particular conclusion that a reaction intermediate is present. That is another important question to be noted down, isn't it? We are writing the reaction will be proceeding in such a way, and we will be having one carbocation intermediate, and then in the next step we will be having the nucleophile will be attacking. Like that we will be writing the different steps. So how we are determining the reaction mechanism, that is what discussed in this video. And also this is a very important, very important question. It is an usually asked question. Sometimes it might be for an essay part, or it can be in section C part. It can be asked in both sections. Okay, section C or section D, it might be asked. So please don't ignore this particular portion. It is very important. As I said earlier, that both the reaction mechanisms part are very important. That is why I am taking it in such a slow way. Okay, so please study this part also. This is very important. So next is methods of determination, and also there are several methods of determination of the reaction mechanism. And some of them given in your textbook. That is the first method for determining the reaction mechanism. That is the first one, that is the product analysis. Then the second one, that is detection of intermediates. And in the case of detection of intermediates, it has got again three different steps for the determination of intermediates. That is the first one, that is the isolation. I will be telling you all this in detail. Isolation. Then the second one, detection. And the third one, trapping. Isolation, detection and trapping. Then the next major method, and then the next method for the determination, that is isotope effects. Then the fourth one, that is the stereochemical studies. The fifth one, that is the kinetic studies. So these are the five important steps to determine the reaction mechanism: product analysis, detection of intermediates by isolation or by trapping or by detection. Then the third one, isotope effects. Then the fourth one, stereochemical studies, and the fifth one, that is by kinetic studies. Okay, then we can go through one by one. The first one, that is the product analysis. See, the term itself says it is product analysis. That is, we are identifying the products as well as the byproducts while doing a reaction. Okay, the mechanism will be studied. The mechanism will be studied by identifying the products and the byproducts. By identifying the products and byproducts. So for example, isomeric allyl chlorides, while we are taking the while we are doing the hydrolysis of isomeric allyl chlorides, allyl chlorides. See, the products will be hydrolysis of this isomeric allyl chlorides. We are identifying in this mechanism, we are identifying the products and byproducts. From that, we are going to the reverse side or going to the back side. That is, we are moving on to the reaction mechanism. What will be the intermediates there? Okay. So this isomeric allyl chlorides on hydrolysis, we will be having a mixture of, the products will be 85% of tertiary alcohol and 15% of primary alcohol. Okay, the products will be 85% tertiary alcohol and 15% primary alcohol. So here I am writing the isomeric allyl chloride CH3 twice C double bond CH, then single bond CH2 Cl. This is one isomer of this allyl chloride. It has got a double bond as well as a chlorine atom. Then another isomer, that is CH3 twice C Cl, then single bond CH, double bond CH2. Here also one double bond, one chlorine atom. So this is also an allyl chloride. So a mixture of this isomeric allyl chlorides on hydrolysis. So the product will be 85% tertiary alcohol and 15% primary alcohol. Okay, so I am writing the product here. It's a tertiary 15% primary alcohol, isn't it? So the first one that will be, so from this one CH3 twice C double bond CH single bond CH2, what happens is chlorine atom will be replaced by OH group. Okay, so this is one product, and again in this case the product will be CH3 twice C, this chlorine atom will be replaced by OH, single bond CH double bond CH2. Okay, so this is 85% tertiary alcohol. This is a tertiary alcohol COH, isn't it? So this is a tertiary alcohol and this is 15% of primary alcohol. 15% of primary alcohol. Okay, so if this product has to occur, what will be the intermediate? And if we are having this tertiary alcohol, what will be the intermediate? Okay, so we are identifying the intermediate from this product. So in the first case, if this has to occur, what happens? This Cl minus should be eliminated and therefore we will be having CH2 plus, isn't it? That will be the intermediate in the first case, that is CH3 twice C double bond CH single bond CH2 plus. So this can be one intermediate. Okay, and in the second case, what will be the intermediate? The product is COH. It is a tertiary alcohol, therefore we can say it is a tertiary carbocation. So the intermediate will be CH3 twice C plus. Okay, so this carbon will be carrying a positive charge, single bond CH, double bond CH2. Okay, so these are the two intermediates while hydrolyzing this allyl chloride. So in this way, by identifying this products and byproducts, we can determine the intermediate or we can write the reaction mechanism. So this product analysis, it is normally used in the Beckmann rearrangement also. Product analysis, it is used in the Beckmann rearrangement reaction also. Okay, so this is one method of determining, that is by product analysis. Then the second one, that is the detection of intermediates. Second one, detection of intermediates, and there three methods are there: by isolation, by detection, or by trapping. Detection of intermediates. In this, the first one, that is by isolation. See, detection of intermediates means while we are doing a particular reaction, the intermediates will be formed, and we have to identify the intermediates by some different mechanisms. Okay, that is if sometimes carbocations are present or carbanions, or it can be free radicals. So you have to identify that particular intermediate formed in between the reaction. That is another important step. Okay, so in the first case we are identifying the products, and thereby we will be determining the reaction mechanism, and in the second case you have to identify the intermediates formed in between. Say for example, in the case of this isolation, I will be telling you one example in the case of this isolation. Isolation, that is, isolation means we are stopping the reaction at different stages. Stopping the reaction at different stages. That is, while a reaction is going on, we will be stopping at certain points, and thereby at that time some products or intermediates will be there that you have to identify. Okay, so we will be stopping the reaction at different stages. For example, Hofmann rearrangement of amide. Hofmann rearrangement. Hofmann's rearrangement of amide to amine. Hofmann's rearrangement of amide to amine. See here, amide, that is RCONH2, in presence of sodium hypobromide, NaOBr, in presence of sodium hypobromide. See here, the reaction will be going on. The final product will be an amine. Okay, amide, it is converted to amine. So the intermediates formed will be, at first stage what happens, the first intermediate formed is RCONHBr. Okay, then comes the second intermediate will be RCON minus Br plus. Okay, then the last intermediate is RNCO. That is an isocyanate, RNCO. After these three intermediates, after the formation of these three intermediates, the compound is finally converted to the product amine. Okay, so when an amide, this is the amide, when this amide is treated with sodium hypobromide, what happens? The intermediates formed will be RCONHBr. So at this stage, while during the formation of this RCONHBr, the reaction will be stopped, and we will be identifying this particular intermediate. Then further we are proceeding, that means we are controlling the reaction up to this stage. Then we are proceeding the reaction in the next step. Then what happens? We will be having the product RCON minus Br plus. Okay, one HBr, one hydrogen atom will be eliminated from this, isn't it? Then again in the third intermediate, we will be having RNCO. So by stopping the reaction at different stages, we can identify the reaction mechanism. Okay, so this is one method, isolation, that is by stopping the reaction at different stages. Thereby you can identify the intermediates. So these are the intermediates formed during the conversion of amide to amine. Okay, so this is one method, isolation. Okay, then the next method, for the detection of intermediates, that is by detection. By detection. See here, in the case of detection, we are using this method for the detection of unstable intermediates. Unstable intermediates means they will be highly reactive normally, isn't it? Unstable intermediates, usually for the detection of carbocations and free radicals, unstable intermediates like carbocations and free radicals, this method is used. For the identification of carbocations and free radicals, this detection method is adopted. That is, in the case of SN1 and E1 reactions, carbocations will be formed as an intermediate, isn't it? We have seen already. Carbocation will be the intermediate there. So this particular intermediate carbocation, it is detected by using NMR spectroscopy. This NMR spectroscopy you will be studying in detail in your next IS6. Okay, NMR spectroscopy. It will be detected by using nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. Carbocations are identified by NMR. Then also free radicals. Free radicals will be there in some reactions. So these free radicals, they are identified by ESR spectroscopy, that is electron spin resonance spectroscopy. Electron spin resonance spectroscopy. This NMR is nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. Nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. Resonance. Okay. So this is the next step of detection of intermediates, that is by using spectroscopic techniques, carbocations by NMR and free radicals by ESR. Then the next one, the third one, that is by trapping. C, by trapping. See here, for a highly reactive intermediate, for example, carbene intermediate, it is a highly reactive intermediate. We have seen carbene intermediate, and also in the case of carbene intermediate, they are trapped, they will be trapped in some other organic compounds. Okay, this carbene intermediate, at the time of formation itself, it will be reacting to some other compounds, isn't it? So at the time of formation, some efficient trapping material or some efficient trapping organic compound is used there, so that this carbene will be trapped in that particular compound. Okay, so thus we can identify that particular intermediate. Okay, so normally this carbene intermediate, it will be trapped in cyclopropene. Okay, this carbene intermediate, it will be trapped in cyclopropane derivative. Trapped as cyclopropane derivative. That is, it will be normally some anthracene etc. will be used for the trapping of benzene intermediate. Okay, so this carbene intermediate, it is trapped as a cyclopropane derivative. So I'll be writing the reaction. This is CH2 with 2 electron pairs. So this is methylene radical plus this is a cyclic alkene, isn't it? It is a compound, a cyclic compound with a double bond. So this is a cyclic alkene. So what happens, this intermediate, it will be trapped in this cyclic intermediate. That means this pi bond is broken and the CH2 will be joining to this particular compound. So the product will be CH2 So this will be the product. That means the pi bond will be broken and the CH2 will be added across the pi bond. Okay. So this carbene, it is trapped in this particular cyclic cyclohexene. Okay. So this is one method for trapping of carbene intermediates. Next comes the case of the carbocation intermediates. Carbocations can also be trapped like this. So usually for some reactions we have seen carbocation intermediates will be there, and also for identifying the presence of carbocations we will be doing some other reactions. Okay, so this is the case of carbene intermediate. Then the next is moving on to the case of the identification of carbocation intermediate in some reactions. Identification of carbocations in some of the reactions. For example, CH2 double bond CH2 plus Br2, giving at first this electrophile will be attacking, isn't it? So CH2, what happens? CH2 single bond CH2Br plus Br minus. This carbon atom will be carrying a positive charge. Okay. This is the first carbocation. So you have to identify this particular carbocation, whether in that reaction a carbocation is formed or not. Okay. So what happens is that at this stage, that is to this carbocation, we are adding different halogens or different nucleophiles. Okay. So CH2 plus single bond CH2Br. To this species we are adding different nucleophiles. So if we are adding Br minus, what happens? It will be added across this carbocation. So it becomes CH2Br single bond CH2Br. Okay. Then comes I minus. If we are adding I minus, it will be added across this carbocation. So it becomes ICH2Br single bond CH2Br. Okay. Then if we are adding Cl minus, it becomes ClCH2. Sorry, here no Br. Okay. ClCH2, then CH2Br. Okay, so if we are adding the nucleophile Br minus, it will be added across this carbocation. Okay, Br, CH2, CH2, Br. Then if we are adding another nucleophile I minus, it becomes I, CH2, CH2, Br. Then again, if we are adding a nucleophile Cl minus, it becomes Cl, CH2, CH2, Br. Okay, so by the formation of these different products, it is clear that we will be having a carbocation as an intermediate. Okay. Then the next, normally we have seen the trapping of carbene intermediate. Similarly, benzene intermediate. Benzene, I hope you know the structure of benzene. It will be like this. Okay, so benzene intermediate, it will be trapped by anthracene. Benzene, it will be trapped by anthracene, and the formed product, and while during the trapping of this anthracene, it will be converted to a compound called as tryptazine. The trapping of benzene intermediate by anthracene and will be reacting to form tryptazine. Okay, so if tryptazine is formed, what happens? We can it is clear that we will be having the intermediate benzene. Okay, and also free radicals can also be trapped by this method. Free radicals can be trapped by bromine or nitric oxide. Okay, these are some of the trapping materials used for trapping of free radicals. So hope you are clear with this detection. So three methods are there. Detection of intermediates. First is isolation, second one detection, and the third one is trapping. Then the next one, that is the isotope effects. Major number 3, that is isotope effects. Isotope effects. See here, isotope effect means normally, suppose I am taking this particular compound CH3, CHBr, CH3. Okay, and if dehydrohalogenation is taking place, is doing with this particular compound, one hydrogen atom and one bromine atom will be eliminated, and we will be having a double bonded compound. Okay, so there we will be writing the rate of this particular reaction. And suppose if I am replacing these 3 hydrogen atoms with 3 deuterium atoms, that is, we are replacing hydrogen by its isotopes. That is, we can be replacing it, we can replace this hydrogen atom with deuterium or tritium, H21 or H31. Okay, instead of protium, we are replacing it with deuterium or tritium. Then we have to find out the rate of this particular reaction. Okay, so thereby we can determine the rate of the reaction, and thereby we can see what are the steps involved, whether the reaction is going on with SN1 or SN2 or E1 or E2. Okay, by determining the rate or by substituting these hydrogens with its isotopes, we can determine the rate. And by knowing the rate of the reaction, already we have seen the rate depends on either the concentration of the substrate in one case, or in the second case the rate depends on the concentration of the substrate or the nucleophile, isn't it? So thereby we can know about the mechanism followed in that particular reaction. Okay, So if normally if we are replacing the hydrogen atoms by its isotopes, we can say that there will not be any change in the physical as well as chemical properties. Okay, normally not much change, the chemical properties will not be changed much, but what happens is that when an atom is substituted by its isotope, the rate of the reaction will be changing. Okay, if we are using, instead of hydrogen, we are using deuterium or tritium, the rate will be changing. And also the rate will be expressed in terms of, for hydrogen, if it is hydrogen, we can say the rate is Kh. We can represent it by the rate constant Kh. If it is replaced by deuterium, the rate constant is Kd. And if it is replaced by tritium, we can write it as Kt. And then we can compare the rates, that is Kh by Kd or Kh by Kt. We are comparing it with Kh. Okay, so we can write the ratios of the rate constants. It can be Kh by Kd or it can be Kh by Kt. We are comparing the rates of the reaction with that of hydrogen. So normally this Kh by Kd, it will be approximately equal to 7. And this Kh by Kt, it is approximately equal to 16. So what do you mean by these values? Kh by Kd is equal to 7 and Kh by Kt is equal to 16. That means Kh is equal to 7 Kd, isn't it? Kh is equal to 7 Kd. That means the reaction, the Kh is very much faster than that of Kd, isn't it? It is almost 7 times that of Kd. So the reaction will be much faster in the presence of hydrogen atom or protein. Here also Kh, it is equal to 16 times Kt, isn't it? So the reaction is very much faster than that of tritium while we are replacing it with tritium. So the rate of the reaction caused by the change in the isotope, rate of the reaction, the change in the rate of the reaction, change in the rate of the reaction caused by the change in the isotope, caused by the change in the isotope, it is called as the isotopic effect. It is called as the isotopic effect. Okay, so this is very important, isotopic effect. The change in the rate of the reaction caused by the change in the isotope, it is called as isotopic effect. See here, if we are replacing hydrogen by deuterium, the reaction will be changed to the rate of hydrogens will be almost 7 times that of Kd, and also if it is replaced by tritium, the rate of the reaction with hydrogens will be equal to 16 times that of Kt. Okay, so this phenomenon is called as isotopic effect. And also normally this reason for this, so this is if the first hydrogen atom is replaced by one deuterium or one tritium, it is called as the primary isotopic effect. That is, when breaking of the bond which binds the atom or its isotope, it is the rate determining step. The magnitude will be very high and it is called as primary isotopic effect. So this value we can call it as a primary isotopic effect. Okay, so here this primary isotopic effect, it will be, the reason might be one of the reasons of this primary isotopic effect, that might be the bond dissociation energy. See here, during the replacement of the first hydrogen, that is instead of CH3, it becomes CH2D, isn't it? One hydrogen, it is replaced by deuterium. So what happens is that, what are the reactions going on here? There will be a breaking of a CH bond and the formation of a CD bond, isn't it? A CD bond and CH bond, cleavage of a CH bond and the formation of a CD bond. So here, in the case of if there is a CD bond present, the two in case of the two reactions, CD bond and a CH bond. So in these two cases, the bond breaking of a CD bond is more difficult while comparing that of CH bond. Okay, that means greater bond dissociation energy is needed for this breaking of the CD bond while comparing with that of the CH bond. That might be the reason for the increase in the rate of the reaction. So the CH bond will be cleaved faster than that of the CD bond. So what happens? A greater bond dissociation energy will be needed. Okay, so that might be the reason for the primary isotopic effect. Then next we can go through one reaction. CH3, CHBr, then CH3 plus C2H5O minus. Okay, in the presence of an alcohol. Dehydrohalogenation reaction. This is a dehydrohalogenation or dehydrobromination. Dehydrohalogenation or dehydrobromination. So one hydrogen atom and one bromine atom should be eliminated, and the product will be CH3, CH, double bond CH2 plus Br minus plus one H plus will be abstracted by the C2H5O minus, and it becomes C2H5OH. Okay, then the next is we are involved. Next reaction is we are replacing the 3 hydrogen atoms by 3 deuterium atoms. That is, it becomes CH3, CHBr, CD3 plus C2H5O minus. The 3 hydrogens are replaced by 3 deuterium atoms. So the product will be, sorry, here also I will be replacing the 3 hydrogen atoms by 3 deuterium atoms. CD3, CHBr, CD3 plus C2H5O minus. Then again the reaction, see here one D and one bromine atom will be eliminated. Okay, so the product will be CD3, CH, then double bond CD2 plus Br minus plus C2H5OD instead of hydrogen deuterium. Okay, then we are comparing the rate of both the cases. That is, in this case it is KH and in this case the rate is KD. Okay, so here the rate, while comparing the rates of these two reactions, that is KH by KD, it is approximately equal to 7, or we can say that KH is equal to 7 times that of KD. Okay, rate is equal to, KH is equal to 7 times that of KD. That means in the rate determining step, the cleavage of CH bond will be taking place in the rate determining step itself. Okay, in the first step itself, the breaking of CH bond will be taking place. Okay, that is why in the second, while we are replacing it with D3, the rate of the reaction, it becomes this much slower. Okay, so from this it is clear that an intermediate, a carbocation is not formed here in this reaction. Okay, a carbocation is not formed as an intermediate in this elimination reaction, in this dehydrobromination. That means even reaction is not involved. Even reaction means it involved 2 steps, isn't it? Elimination, even elimination means it has got 2 steps, that is formation of a carbocation. After that elimination takes place. But here a carbocation is not involved in the formation. Therefore, the reaction will be proceeding through only E2 mechanism. The reaction will be proceeding only through E2 mechanism. What is E2 mechanism? There is only the reaction will, the bond breaking and bond making will be taking place simultaneously. That is, here the reaction will be following in this way. That is C2H5O minus plus CH3, CHBr, CH3, isn't it? CH3, then CHBr, CH3. So what happens? A carbocation will not be formed. We have proved that the reaction follows E2 mechanism. So this C2H5O minus will be abstracting this proton. So what happens? This electron pair will be shifting to this position. This Br minus will be eliminated. Okay. So the reaction will be going on like this. C2H5O, partial bond making with this hydrogen atom. Then again this is also a partial electron shift. Then CH. Then single bond CH, already a sigma bond present. Then this electron pair is shifted, so a partial bond making here. Then CH, then CH3, here a partial bond breaking with this bromine atom, isn't it? Then in the next step what happens? The C2H5O will be abstracting this proton, so it becomes C2H5OH plus. Here it becomes CH2, Then here bond making process is completed. CH2 double bond CH, then single bond CH3 plus Br minus. Okay, so no carbocation is formed. Therefore, this dehydrohalogenation, it involves E2 mechanism. Okay, E2 mechanism. So this is how we are determining from the in terms of isotopic effect. Similarly, one more reaction is given in your textbook, that is regarding the nitration of benzene. Another example, nitration of benzene. Benzene plus HNO3. Nitration means NO2 plus group will be added across the double bond. Okay. So here in this nitration of benzene, one hydrogen atom is present here. So in the first step, what happens while this electrophile is attacking, NO plus nitronium ion is attacking, this double bond will be shifted to this position. Okay. So this is a slow step and it involves the formation of some of the resonating structures, isn't it? So while this electron pair is shifted, this carbon atom will be getting a negative charge and there this NO2 plus will be attacking. Okay, so this hydrogen atom, then NO2 plus will be joined here. So the remaining will be a double bond here, then a double bond at this position. Okay, and this carbon atom, since the electron pair is shifted, this carbon atom will be getting a positive charge. Then what will be the next resonating structure? In order to neutralize this positive charge, this electron pair will be shifting to this position. So again, HNO2, here a double bond. This electron pair is moving to this position. So here this carbon atom will be getting a positive charge. And what happens this at this position? A double bond. Then the next one, HNO2. Again, this electron pair will be shifting here. So this carbon atom will be getting a positive charge. Then here a double bond. Then already this double bond is present. Okay. Then in the last step, what happens? Minus H plus. That means this H plus will be eliminated so that this electron pair will be shifting here. So here it becomes a double bond. So in the last step, we will be having NO2. This H plus is eliminated. So here it becomes a double bond. Already two double bonds are present. Okay. So this is the resonating structures. These three are the resonating structures which is formed as an intermediate. So here the first step is the slow step, or this is the rate determining step. And also in this step there is no breaking of this CH bond, isn't it? The CH bond, it is present there. There is no breaking of CH bond. And the second step, in the second step only what happens? See, H plus is removed, or the breaking of CH bond is there, and hence what happens, this in the second step only this breaking of CH bond is present, and therefore a carbocation is formed as an intermediate to form a nitrobenzene. Okay, so therefore we can say that this reaction, it follows SE1 mechanism. SE1 means electrophilic substitution reaction, SE1, and it is not SE2. So the reaction follows electrophilic substitution, unimolecular. Electrophilic substitution takes place. Okay, so in the first step, this addition of electrophile takes place. Okay, so this particular reaction follows SE1 mechanism, not SE2. So this is the third step, that is the isotope effects. Okay, then the next one, the fourth one, that is the stereochemical studies, that we have discussed already. Stereochemical studies. stereochemical studies. See here in the case of stereochemical studies, we have seen already in the case of SN1 and SN2, isn't it? Here in the stereochemical studies, we will be conducting experiments with optically active compounds. We will be conducting the stereochemical studies with optically active compounds. So if we are using an optically compound, sometimes if it is following SN1 or SN2, there will be sometimes inversion of configuration takes place, and in the another case there will be a mixture of both. That means there will be sometimes inversion plus retention of configuration takes place, isn't it? So by taking the compounds as optically active, we are taking the optical activity optically active compounds and checking the optical activity of the products. Okay, checking the optical activity of the products. Thereby we will be clear about the mechanism. See, suppose in the case of SN1, what happens? A racemic mixture will be formed, isn't it? A racemic mixture we have discussed in detail in the case of the mechanisms of SN1 and SN2. So a racemic mixture will be the product. That means there will be an attack of the nucleophile from both front side as well as the back sides, isn't it? Attack of the nucleophile takes place from the front and the back side. While in the case of SN2, what happens? We will be having Walden inversion. That is, the attack is only from the back side. The attack, it is only from the back side in the case of SN2, isn't it? So if it is an SN1 reaction, we can say that we will be having an optically inactive product, or we will be having a mixture of both activity, isn't it? That is, we are having two products, one with an inversion of configuration and the other with a retention of configuration, but in the other side just inversion of configuration takes place. Okay, so in your textbook, one more example for SN1 mechanism is given, that is for racemization. We are taking a tertiary compound, that is CH3, C, C2H5, then C3H7, then Br. Okay, then the first step, Br minus, it is a slow step. So here this is a tertiary carbon atom, isn't it? So the attack can be from front side or from the back side. So at first this Br minus will be eliminated, so it becomes CH3, a planar compound. It becomes CH3, C plus, then C2H5, then C3H7. C3H7. Br minus will be eliminated. Okay, then again it will be having two products. One can be from the attack of OH minus from the back side, or it can be the attack from OH minus from the front side. Okay, so first I will be writing the attack of OH minus from the back side. So what happens? An inversion of configuration, just like opening of an umbrella, that is this C2H5 will be going to the other side. So the product will be like this, CH3, then what happens here? OH, isn't it? OH is from the back side, then here C3H7, and then the C2H5 will go into the other side, C2H5. Okay, so this is the inversion of configuration. Then again the next is the attack of OH minus from the front side. So what happens? The product will be like this, CH3, C, then there what happens? Retention of configuration, isn't it? C2H5, then C3H7, and this OH minus attack, it is from the front side, so here it becomes OH. Okay, so here we have got a racemization, or it will be an optically inactive compound, isn't it? So by considering the optical activity, or by checking the optical activity of the products, we will be reaching a conclusion whether the reaction follows SN1 or SN2, that is whether we will be having an inverted configuration or we will be having a mixture of optically active as well as optically inactive compounds. Okay, retention, that means there will be a mixture of retention of configuration and the inversion of configuration. Okay, so by checking this also we will be reaching a conclusion. Okay, Then the next is the kinetic studies. So this is the case of SN reactions. Then the next is, I'll be writing one example for Walden inversion also. That is also given in your textbook. See, Walden inversion, that is OH minus, attack of OH minus in the case of R2 bromobutane, OH minus plus CH3, C, then H, then C2H5, then Br. Okay, so here the attack is from the back side. So what happens? An intermediate will be formed, OH, single bond, a partial bond making, CH3, then H, it is a planar compound, C2H5, then this Br is removal. This is the transition state. So here either you write this particular example or the example what you have studied in SN1 and SN2 with respect to a primary bromide and a tertiary bromide. Okay, both examples you can write. If you are having some difficulty in writing this particular reaction, you can write that examples using primary as well as tertiary. Okay, for explaining this Walden inversion as well as racemization. Okay, so the product formed here will be CH3, then OH, then C2H5, then H. So here inversion of configuration takes place. This is Walden inversion. Walden inversion. Okay. So next is regarding the kinetic studies. The last one, determination of the reaction mechanism in terms of kinetic studies. So in the case of kinetic studies, here we will be normally we will be writing some steps. In the first step there it is a slow step, and in the second step it is the fastest step. So the first step will be the slowest step will be the rate determining step that we have been writing in all the reactions, isn't it? The slower step will be the rate determining step, and from that we can study the rate of a reaction, and thereby we can find out the reaction mechanisms also. Say for example, in the hydrolysis of alkyl halides, okay, I'll be writing two examples. Hydrolysis of alkyl halides. Hydrolysis of alkyl halides, say CH3Br on hydrolysis, it will be converted to CH3OH. Okay, so here the rate equation can be written like this: minus d by dt of CH3Br minus d by dt of CH3Br, that is equal to the rate constant K into CH3Br, concentration of CH3Br into concentration of OH minus. So here we can say that the rate depends upon the concentration of the substrate or the alkyl halide as well as concentration of OH minus. Okay, the rate depends upon the concentration of the substrate, that is CH3Br and OH minus. Therefore, we can say that we have already studied, if the rate depends upon the concentration of the substrate and the attacking reagent, what happens? The reaction follows SN2 mechanism, isn't it? It is a bimolecular reaction, or it follows SN2 mechanism, or it is a second order reaction. Or it is a second order reaction. Just hold for 1 second. Sorry for the hindrance in between. So here the rate depends upon the concentration of the substrate as well as the nucleophile. Therefore, it follows second order reaction, and thereby it is clear that it follows SN2 mechanism. And then that means SN2 mechanism means there will not be any carbocation intermediate. Okay, that means it will be like this: CH3Br, CH3Br. Attack, it is from the back side, OH minus. So what happens? And in the transition state will be formed, H, then H, H. This is the bond breaking step, delta negative. This is also delta negative. This is a transition state. And then finally Br minus will be eliminated and the product will be CH. OH will, the attack of OH from the back side, so it will be like this, H, H. Okay, so this is the first case, that is it follows SN2 mechanism. A transition state is there in between. Then the next is the hydrolysis of a tertiary alkyl halide. Hydrolysis of tertiary alkyl halide. A tertiary alkyl bromide. That is CH3 thrice CBr, tertiary alkyl bromide. CH3 thrice CBr, hydrolysis of tertiary alkyl bromide. See here the rate, while writing the rate equation, it will be equal to d by dt of CH3 thrice CBr, that is equal to the rate constant K into concentration of CH3 thrice CBr. That is, the rate determining step involves only the concentration of the substrate, or the rate is directly proportional to the concentration of the substrate only, isn't it? That also we have studied. Rate is directly proportional to the concentration of the substrate means it follows SN1 mechanism, isn't it? It is a unimolecular reaction. So it is a unimolecular nucleophilic substitution reaction. Therefore, it follows SN1 mechanism. So what will be the steps involved? It will be having two steps. The first step, CH3 thrice CBr. It is a slow step. Ionization of this takes place and therefore it becomes CH3 thrice C plus. Then in the next step, addition of OH minus, it is a fast step. Then it becomes CH3 thrice COH, isn't it? So here this rate depends upon only the concentration of the substrate. So it follows SN1 mechanism. So this is the kinetic evidence for the different reactions. That is by determining the order of the reaction. So this particular reaction, it follows first order kinetics, isn't it? It depends only on the concentration of the substrate. So it follows first order kinetics. First order kinetics. So the hydrolysis of primary alkyl halides, it follows SN2, and the hydrolysis of tertiary alkyl halides, it follows SN1 mechanism. So this is the kinetics of a reaction. One more example is given in your textbook, that is the base catalyzed iodination of acetone. Base catalyzed iodination of acetone. That is CH3 COCH3 plus iodine in presence of OH minus. The product will be CH3 CO CH2I plus HI. CH3 CO CH2I plus HI, that is one HI will be eliminated. So here the rate, while writing the reaction rate expression, the rate is equal to minus d by dt of CH3 CO CH3, that will be equal to K into concentration of CH3 CO instead of this we can put it as rate. Okay, rate is equal to K into concentration of CH3 COCH3 and OH minus. See here, this OH minus here, it is the solvent. Okay, in the presence of an alkaline medium, that is a base catalyzed reaction, so that is why this OH minus is considered here. So otherwise it is a first order reaction, that is the rate does not depends on this iodine, isn't it? Concentration of the iodine, only the substrate is used up here. And so what happens is that this follows, simply we can say that it is K into CH3 COCH3. OH minus is a solvent since it is a base catalyzed reaction, so we have no, it is not needed to consider this OH minus. Therefore we can say that the rate depends only on the concentration of the substrate. Therefore we can say that this particular reaction follows first order kinetics. This particular reaction follows first order kinetics. And also the iodine, the addition of iodine, it will be taking place only in the first step. Okay, so therefore we can write the reaction, the steps like this: CH3 COCH3. In the first step, this OH minus will be abstracting a proton from the CH3 group. Okay, so it becomes CH3 CO CH2 minus plus H2O. Okay, in the second step, the CH3 CO CH2 minus, it will be abstracting one iodine. So it becomes CH3 CO CH2I plus I minus. Okay, so in the first step, the rate depends only on the concentration of this acetone. That means it is a first order kinetics. There is no involvement of iodine. So this is the slow step and this is the fast step. So it follows a first order kinetics. So these are some of the kinetic evidences for determining the reaction mechanism. So this is very important, the 5 steps. That is, the first one, product analysis, detection of intermediates, then isotope effects, stereochemical studies and kinetic studies. Okay, all these are important. So while writing the stereochemical studies, you can write the primary as well as the tertiary halides that we have studied in detail in SN1 and SN2. Okay, that example also you can write here. So these are some of the reaction mechanism, and it is very important. You have to study it in detail itself. I had written all the points, so please don't skip this also. It's a sure question in your university examination. Okay, so with this portion, with this video, your S4 portions are over and it is your time to study well. So please have your studies while along with that you have to note down the points as well. You have to keep one paper and pen with you, and then you should write the examples or write the reactions and then study. Otherwise, if you are simply reading the reactions, you will not understand anything or it will not be by hearted. You cannot study in that way. You just keep a paper and pen and write it and study. Okay, so thank you and have a nice day. Do well for your examinations.